Back in the wholesaling Stone Age, high tech was represented by the car phone that mounted in your trunk, a Kodak carousel slide projector, and a newfangled portable computer that weighed just less than a cinder block. Today's wholesaler has an amazing array of technological innovations that enable them to access previously unavailable data, stay organized in unimaginable ways, and connect to clients and prospects with lightning speed. Here in the 2020s, wholesalers who fail to embrace all of the technological opportunities available to their practice are simply destined to spend their time chasing the sales leaders that understand its power. I'm your host, Rob Shore, and this series of shows from Wholesaler Masterminds Radio is called Wholesaler Tech Talk, sponsored by Y-Charts. Our goal is to explore the technology behind the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesaling. So strap on your propeller caps as we dive in. In over 3 decades of wholesaling, I've never seen wholesalers more excited about technology. By presenting data-driven strategies accompanied by dynamic visuals, technology is enabling wholesalers to better market their products and reduce friction in meetings. That's why I'm excited to introduce you to Y-Charts, a sales enablement platform that provides the data and tools you need to demonstrate your fund's value to advisors. Using Y-Charts in real time, you can objectively compare managers' and competitors' strategies, discuss how economic conditions impact your funds, and pull up visuals to compare key data points. Y-Charts will elevate your distribution team's collaboration with tools that allow internals to push charts, comp tables, screens, and reports to externals on the road that enable more productive meetings and provide shareable content for value-add follow-up. And here's a special for you. Y-Charts is offering a free month to my listeners. Mention Wholesaler Masterminds when you email them at hello@ycharts.com or head to ycharts.com. Wholesalers, one of the things that is important in Wholesaling 2020 is the notion of your CRM. And for, 8 out of 10 wholesalers, your CRM represents Salesforce. And I thought it was important that we have a conversation about Salesforce, its usage, and how exactly do you use Salesforce for profit and remove the pain? Because I know you don't have to say anything to me. I'm aware that many of you out there are thinking that Salesforce is an evil, evil tool that has been installed on your phone and on your laptop. And here to dispel that myth is Kerry Ryan. She's Director, Global Go-To Markets Wealth and Asset Management at Salesforce. She worked closely with sales, marketing, customer success, enablement, product, and innovation teams to support the digital transformation and business growth of both wealth and asset management firms globally. Before joining Salesforce, she was head of digital strategy for Forrester's Financial North American Asset Management Broker-Dealer, Retirement and Investment Management Business. Prior to Forrester Financial, Kerry was head of digital experience at Legg Mason, where she was responsible for the firm's web, social media, search, and mobile initiatives. Previously, Kerry held program management and contributed to strategy for Legg Mason's industry-recognized practice management and education offerings, the Advisor Partnership Program. In her role, she developed, created, and promoted programs designed to help financial intermediaries effectively leverage technologies to accomplish business objectives. She's a holder of a certified private wealth advisor designation administered by the Investments and Wealth Institute and taught in conjunction with the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. Kerry Ryan, welcome to Wholesaler Tech Talk.
Well, welcome. Thanks so much for having me here, Rob. I'm absolutely thrilled and delighted to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you here. We need to get under the hood of Salesforce, okay? Because as you heard in my introduction, and I know you know this, you don't have to admit it if you don't want to, but there's a whole host of wholesalers, the folks, guys and girls that are slinging it either on the desk or in the field, that maybe softly under their breath rue the day that the firm installed Salesforce. So let's talk a little bit about how to make it a profitable endeavor and relieve some of that pain. And I know the first one that you want to talk about is the importance of mobile. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Central to everything.
So tell me more. What is it about mobile that helps me unlock some of the goodness, more goodness in Salesforce and alleviate some of this pain we speak about?
Yeah, sure. No, and I definitely seen the pain, out there in the industry. Talk to a lot of, users of our technology, and we're here to really help guide them and support them so they can get more value out of their capability. And I think as we think about it, mobile is really kind of the foundation for success. For any wholesaler, they're generally all of them are spending their time out on the road, not in the home office. You really need to be running the business from the palm of your hands. So that's where we see the mobile experience come first and foremost. And I think it's also a great way of changing behavior too, because I think a lot of folks look at Salesforce, and I think way back in the early days of Salesforce, it was really just viewed as kind of an online Rolodex. And what we're working to really, change that perception, and working with our customers to say, what, it can actually really be truly a system of engagement, the place where you go to every day that's giving you a lot of insights on who to call, when to call, what to share, really how to take those businesses forward. And I think mobile is a great underpinning of all of that.
Well,
and when you think
let's talk about some best practices within that then. Mm-hmm. So I know one of the best practices that you speak about is this whole notion of operating in real time, mm-hmm. not reserving your work for when you get back to hotel or back to home, but operating in real time. Talk a little bit about that and the importance of that as it relates to mobile.
Yeah, I think that's the real power of mobile. You go to a meeting with one of your top advisors or a great new prospect. No better way of just pulling out your phone right after that meeting, keying in some information, or actually even better, speaking into your phone and having those notes translate into the record, and then ultimately be great. Tag your internal, tag your sales assistant, tag the home office, and the great news is that you kind of bring your home office team into supporting you. So any follow-up steps that need to be taken are happening in kind of the here and now, and you're not taking a note in a notebook and saying, okay, I'm going to key that in when I have my office day, which could be 2 or 3 days after that meeting. So certainly I think it's a great way of, responding quickly, taking advantage of those in-person visits that you have, and really demonstrating your value to your customers and your prospects.
Wholesalers, as we have this call, I want to also interject some best practices based upon thousands and thousands of hours of coaching wholesalers, as well mm-hmm. as, the background that I've had. And here's the idea I want to give you, wholesalers, and that is, you got to figure out that moment, because it's only going to take you a moment. You have to figure out that moment when you're going to do this CRM input, right? So right after the meeting, before you get on the subway, before you exit the office building, before you turn over your car, before you jump into an Uber, whatever your form of transportation is from point A to point B, I want you to pull out your device and I want you to record the notes of your meeting right there on the spot while it's fresh. And what's going to happen is when you do that, you're going to minimize the monkey on your back, because the monkey on your back is going to be, now you get back to the hotel and you have to do 5 or 6 different recordings. Or the bigger monkey, the elephant on your back, is when at the end of the week, you now have to do 20 or 30 of these recordings. Don't do that. Try to figure out how to work it in directly after the appointment. So, Kerry, I want to toss that in there for our audience, because when it happens in that way, Salesforce sees more participation in the platform. Management is happier because they're getting better participation on the Salesforce platform. And the wholesaler has a lot less pressure on them because they're doing it as they go versus trying to do it in one chunk at the end of the day or end of the week.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely a great point. And I think you also brought up something too, management visibility. We're certainly having a lot of conversations with our customers, and the management teams really want to make sure that they're using Salesforce to the maximum capability, so they can really, if it's managing a territory or managing a division, they have the tools at their hands, so they can really, help coach and guide, their wholesaling teams so that they can really maximize their value in the field.
You said something there that I just want to poke around on, because I'm not sure I understood it, and it sounded like it was a powerful option. So let's say that I'm recording the insights from a particular advisor meeting. And one of the things that I discovered is that the advisor sitting in front of me would benefit from having a further discussion with an analyst. Did I hear you say that it is possible for me to tag that analyst or the department? How does that work? Because that's really powerful, right? Because now my partner in crime, my partner in trying to generate sales, gets that message too. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously capabilities that you can do depending on, how you leverage Salesforce, and we're increasingly seeing a lot of our customers saying, you know what, we don't want just our sales organization leveraging Salesforce. We want our sales teams to be using it. We want our marketing teams to be using it. We want our investment teams to be using it. We want our product teams to be using it. Any other specialists that are, touching any of our client relationships, so that we can really have a singular view of all the interactions that we're having with that client, with that advisor, with that home office person, or that branch manager, and really bringing that together. So we're really seeing a lot of collaboration, with our customers as they start broadening who can actually use Salesforce within their organization, and coming up with workflows and streams to say, okay, let's collaborate more effectively on the platform. And guess what? We're also seeing the compliance team start to say, well, that's a great place. We can get a really good sense of what's going on in the organization, and we can help support, our sales, our marketing, our investment teams in their field engagements in a much more timely way.
Mm-hmm. So the other thing that you talk about here in mobile is the ability to access previously uploaded files that have been appended to a particular record. So how do I, what are the benefits of that? So real time, as you see it, what do you see as me uploading to the file? And then what do you see me being able to leverage from the mobile device to make my appointment more effective?
Yeah, I mean, there might be, some, additional records that you might have on this relationship. There might be some, archive notes. There could be, maybe you did a, piece of custom content for a relationship. You can all store that in there so you have it as a reference point. And certainly we see some of our other customers integrate with other systems where they have, a longer line of sight into all the pieces of content they might be sharing with a relationship.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the first way to get profit into Salesforce and remove a pain point is to do as much of your work as possible in real time on mobile, start to integrate it into your daily workflow, right?
Absolutely. And I think you said it so best, just in terms of don't make it build up.
All right. Perfect. Number two you said is relationship management. Tell us more about what you mean about using Salesforce for profit around the content or the concept of relationship management.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, advisors are looking, when they look into their wholesalers, they want them to know a lot about them. They expect that they, know more about their practice, what products they're interested in, what platforms they use, kind of what their client base looks like, so they can really have higher value discussions in person, and obviously making sure that any other interactions are really valuable as well. And I think certainly using the Salesforce relationship management and all the fields that are in there to capture as much information so you have it all at your fingertips at the ready at any time, I think is the most valuable thing that you can do. And I think certainly, there's been a lot talked about, there's obviously a lot of great databases out there, there's a lot of great research out there, and that's all super important, of course, but there's really no replacement for the conversations that people are having either in person, on the phone, via email, via text if they're allowed to use it. And I think making sure that you put that as part of the relationship record is just so vital, so important. It can really set you apart, because then you can really go through that, mine that information, and really come up with some insights to really help inform your outreach efforts in terms of, if you're supporting new products, you're trying to cross-sell new products, you obviously are, seeing some issues with your retention. You want to step in and support that as well. Having as much information on your advisor relationships, there's just no replacement for it.
Let me ask you a question around that. So one of the things that we talk about religiously at Wholesaler Masterminds is the importance of advisor reconnaissance. How do you find out information that melts the natural icicles that exist around the sales situation? And it's the things that, it's not the 6 degree of separation piece that, you went to Rutgers and the advisor went to Rutgers and so did your cousin. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the deep information you can find out that helps melt those natural icicles. I'm assuming when you talk about relationship management, one of the things that I could do inside of Salesforce is set up a specific field for vital recon. Can I just set up a field that says vital recon? So in between all this other stuff, like their birthday and how many people are in their office and what software system they're on for doing analytics or all that stuff, I can put in vital recon data or something that is labeled in that way. Can I do that in there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can work with, your Salesforce team, that you have in your staff, and they can put in a custom field for you, and that's a place where you can put that type of information that is really, as you're saying, kind of above and beyond kind of those table stakes of information.
Mm-hmm. Wholesalers, I want you to, if you know anything about advisor reconnaissance, if you do advisor reconnaissance, and I hope you do, I'd like you to look at where can you put that so it's front and center for all the parties that are on your sales team, whether it's your internal partner, your business developer, your admin person, or yourself. So it's a repository of this very vital information that'll always melt those natural icicles. The third one that you talk about, Kerry, is this notion of lead management. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so certainly, I mean, I think, we're seeing a lot evolve in the area of lead management, and I think certainly, any, great wholesaling team, and it could be, an individual external wholesaler, it could be hybrid wholesaler, or it could be an internal and external partnering together. Any, good business plan, is, of course, is around generating new relationships in their territory, and certainly, the topic of lead management has been looked at pretty closely, and of course, then you couple that with, really where marketing is looking to drive more value for the sales organization in terms of supporting, driving those leads, those opportunities by, showcasing great new content. Could be thought leadership, could be practice management content. It just could be, a new product, perspective on, what's happening in the markets, anything that goes underneath that hood. So certainly this is, presenting, I think, some interesting opportunities for wholesalers, but certainly, obviously there's some challenges inherent around that too, because, just because, an advisor gets an email and reads it, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready to really talk to you and have a full-blown relationship around, how you can really be that preferred product provider in their book. So, I mean, I think, certainly as we've seen, the lead management capability within Salesforce is, gives you really a great tracking mechanism, so you can really track those leads, look through them, segment them, and determine like how you want to act on them.
Let me interrupt for a second, because I'm not sure I, as a neophyte when it comes to Salesforce, and that I am. I'm not sure I'm understanding the whole lead management piece. So dumb it down for me and for any listener that maybe either doesn't access that power of Salesforce, or simply is losing the thread of conversation here around lead management. So back me up in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Just take me through, what are you talking about? So lead management, I get that. Correct me if I'm wrong. An advisor goes to the website. They see a piece of content. They want to get access to a particular white paper. That white paper, I assume, is tracked back to their user ID in some way. So now I know that Jane Williams came into the system and got this white paper. Is that a fair, so far, analysis of what you're talking about?
Absolutely. All
right, so now how does that layer back into Salesforce?
Yeah, so, dependent on the organization, there is an ability to marry those interactions that may happen on your company's website to the Salesforce record. So, really based on an ID, I could be coming on to the website, completing a form saying I'm interested in either a webcast or a new piece of thought leadership, and all of that information could get passed over into the account record. And then I can open up my Salesforce and look in and say, okay, well, this is, these are the individuals within my territory who've chosen to either sign up for the webcast or have consumed the thought leadership content. And let me take a look a little bit further and let me prioritize those individuals in a way that I can really follow up and take those leads that have been sent over to me from the marketing organization to really, drive some new opportunities in my territory.
So that really changes the conversation if that is enabled at a particular firm, because now the conversation from the wholesaler to the advisor isn't one that starts with, we have a white paper, would you like to see it? It starts with, I see that you may have accessed our white paper on. Did you have a chance to read it? What did you think of it?
Exactly.
And that's a very different point of entry for a conversation.
Absolutely, yeah, and and it's not even just going to the website. You could also be, consuming an email as well, and getting a sense of, what that interest is as well. It's extremely powerful.
In an organization that's set up to do it, Kerry, so for instance, when I do my Sunday night email, which most listeners here have subscribed to, and if you haven't, I welcome you to, I, of course, get reporting on who has opened an email. What I hear you inferring is that you can tie Salesforce back to an email tracking system that tells you when the firm sends out an email who opened it and it gets reported back into Salesforce. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Wholesalers, that's something to look into. And I fear, Kerry, I know it's true. I fear that some wholesalers will get jazzed about some of these thoughts and then go back to their firms and find out that may not have been enabled in their version yet. Is that a real possibility?
Yeah, that's a fair statement. Yeah, I mean, everyone's on their different, parts of, where they're taking all of this, and some firms may have not gotten there, but I think it can be a very powerful thing to utilize, and certainly can remove some of the burden of the sales organization to feel like they've got lead management sitting all on their shoulders. This is a great opportunity for you to partner with your marketing organization because frankly they really want to help and support you in driving more business.
Yeah, and to that point, Kerry, I think it's important also to mention that wholesalers, if you don't have this functionality, though I know it's frustrating that we talk about stuff that you may not have, I do think it's an opportunity for you to be an informed participant in the process, to be able to go back to management and say, here's the piece of information I think that we could benefit from that could be tied to the Salesforce system, and is it something we can explore in terms of how we can harvest that information more efficiently, more easily. So again, if you don't have access to a particular feature that we're talking about, I do want to encourage you to have that conversation, because the more it bubbles up from the field and the more it bubbles up as seeming to be accretive to the sales process, of course, it's going to get listened to, at least in some measure, when it's measured against costs, et cetera. The fourth one, Kerry, you speak about is opportunity management. This is really pipeline management, right? This is how do you move a prospect through the pipeline? Is that correct?
Absolutely, and we realize, obviously there can be, business can be done very quickly, with the advisors, but there's going to be cases where advisors may have, a significant client opportunity, or they may be, taking a look at how they're allocating a certain part of their clients' assets, which would require, a more thoughtful process in terms of, how they're going to engage with, the various asset management providers that they work with, who they might want to bring in from their own home office to help support, some of these larger account opportunities. And we see opportunity management as a great way to really, bring in the power of the team that you have in the home office, be it, your investment team or your specialist team or your compliance team or your marketing team, and really, or your service team, really bringing everyone together to help you ultimately be more successful in tracking all the steps that you need to track to really be successful. And what it also provides, too, is a great lens to your leadership who, can also make sure that they're opening up the gates to you, to making sure that you're adequately supported to drive some of these opportunities to a successful outcome.
Mm-hmm. So what I hear you saying is in a case particularly, not a one-off trade, but in a case particularly where you're trying to put together a massive allocation, you're really trying to get a substantial piece of business, and there needs to be a number of moving pieces that take place for you to get it between a number of different constituencies, both at the advisor's office and at the home office and yourself as the wholesaler. There is a place within Salesforce where you can play quarterback and navigate the information flow between all parties. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. What about this reports and dashboards? Where does that give me a place to harvest more profit from within Salesforce? Because when I think about my reporting, I think about my reporting that stands separately from my CRM, but maybe that's an old school vision. Take me to this reporting and dashboard notion.
Yeah, and certainly, Rob, that still exists, with other, with separate reporting, because, certainly, firms are all at a different place of where they've integrated, database information, transactional data, other benchmarking information that they're using to really paint a picture of what's happening in a given territory. So I just want to put that out, certainly as is a caveat. Certainly the full power of Salesforce becomes, much more amplified as you start to integrate more of these systems and really see, Salesforce is that primary system of engagement with all the information that you're using to really measure and market your practice. So just as a caveat to all of that. But certainly there is enough flexibility built into the platform. We certainly see, a number of our our customers across, wealth and asset management, saying they really want to use Salesforce as a way for them to really measure the health of their business, have it be a management reporting capability, really towards that lens of having things that are more in real time as opposed to trying to go through multiple sources of, information, bring it together, and then maybe take it to either someone in your finance team or a data scientist or, some other individual who's really charged with pulling all this information together and setting forth a narrative of, really what's going on in a territory division or, across the country, right, as you move up those management levels. So we've seen, certainly a lot of our customers say, let me take a look at the reports and dashboards. There's a lot that can be done there to customize what you're seeing, really based on kind of what you want to be looking at in terms of assessing, where you see opportunities to grow, where you see maybe risk for your territory. And the great news is, really with the Salesforce platform is that there's a lot of capability that can be really, it doesn't require, a heavy lift from a technology perspective. There's a lot that can be done there to adjust those reports and dashboards and to configure it very easily. And my recommendation is, whoever you have in your organization who's really managing your Salesforce platform instance, and that's generally someone who's not in the technology group, work with them, and they'll probably have a million and one ideas on how you can move fields around, how you can adjust, charts and graphs to really give you a picture that you're looking for in terms of how you'd like to see your business being represented so that you can really use it as, an actionable tool.
Let me give you one more thing to comment on, and this is not in our notes, so this is coming out of left field for you, Kerry, but I think it's important because I know it's one of the things that plagues organizations as a whole and wholesalers at the local level, and that's the whole notion of garbage in, garbage out. And certainly, more than 10 years ago when I signed a check for Salesforce for my old sales organization, we grappled with that, and I hear about this even today. Do you have something that helps the wholesalers, internal, external, their administrative partners, et cetera? How do we get over the garbage in, garbage out scenario of obviously Salesforce is only as good as the data that gets populated in it. And in some organizations, that data is a heaping trash fire. How do we begin to get our arms around that? Do you have any sage words of advice around that?
Yeah, certainly you said it best. Data cleanliness and hygiene is obviously, at the underpinning of all of it. And look, certainly I think just about every organization, I think even the ones you'd say are probably the most innovative ones, in any industry, I think are all struggling with it because they're very complex. And certainly the power of data when used well can really drive some really meaningful results. I think what I've seen is, a number of organizations are earmarking someone within their organization to really take on this role of, being kind of that guidance of data in terms of how it's collected, how it's assessed, how it's refreshed, and kind of the guidelines around that. We've seen, some of that as well, with a lot of our firm, customers that have been really grappling with this. Certainly, I think there is obviously the ongoing, I would say, a more focus on governance is, I think, absolutely vital, and that's a difficult word because I know it sends off, depending on who you say it to, but having someone within the organization who's really overseeing data from an end-to-end perspective, and we are a business based on a lot of data. You think of, the data that you have just in terms of the interactions, you have all the transactional data, and then, of course, there's volumes of product data as well. So I think really bringing someone into the organization who can really be a strategic leader and look at it from an end-to-end perspective and partner with organizations such as Salesforce, where we have practitioners here who can really help provide guidance from like the beginning, the middle to the end, to the kind of ongoing monitoring around, structuring data and leveraging it in a way that really drives results, I think is, the best way to go.
Kerry, thank you so much. Wholesalers, we've been with Kerry Ryan. She is with Salesforce. Our objective today is to give you some ideas about how to really improve your use of Salesforce for the good of the organization, for the good of the sales effort, and most particularly for the good of your local practice. Kerry Ryan, thank you for being with us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Rob, for having me here.
Wholesalers come back next time for their episode of Wholesaler Tech Talk at the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. Does this sound at all familiar? You've had a successful meeting with an advisor. You've made a note to reschedule her for another meeting next time you're in town. You place a call, you send an email or two, and you don't get a reply. And even though you intend to follow up to secure the appointment, the advisor drops off your radar. That, right there, is where Wholesaler Mastermind schedulers come in. We excel at what we call pleasant persistence, staying after your list of appointments to be scheduled with dogged determination, remaining consummately professional and, well, pleasant. We've scheduled over 46,000 appointments. How many can we schedule for you? Check out Wholesaler Mastermind Schedulers at WMMschedulers.com. That's WMMschedulers.com. You'll find all of our content at wholesalermasterminds.com, and the podcast can be found at iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play.